There we go. Oh, man. Alright, so what's happening, party people? It has been a month for gaming. This is the end of month live stream for August 2024. There's been some good and some bad. I wanted to start today with something a little controversial. I think it's being misunderstood. It's being misinterpreted. And I mean, this has been doing rounds for a couple months now, but I only really got wind of this. Yeah, just a solo gig today. But all's good. We are still here with this bullshit. All right, so let's just jump right into it because there has been good and there has been bad this month, but I wanted to start with one just to kind of get this out of the way. So this, I'm just gonna highlight this. We can petition calling for the EU's gaming license publishers to preserve video games when support ends. So for those that don't know, in the EU, there is a petition being passed around called where is it? Stop Killing Games. Now, Stop Killing Games, I think is actually I think I have here we go. So this is the actual page for this initiative, and it talks about online game. When support ends for online games, they basically become unplayable, which is in the terms of service for your online games. They specifically call out The Crew here, which The Crew is an online racing game from 2014. A sequel came out in like 2018. I played it. I played the Crew. You know, it was like free on Xbox 1 month. I played The Crew. The Crew 2 came out in like 2018, and then servers for The Crew ended. The Crew 1 were shut down this year, 6 years after a sequel came out, which for an online game is pretty impressive if I'm being honest. Usually I want to say, you know, if when a sequel comes out for a game, they usually end support for the first game servers within like a year. You know, it's usually pretty quick that they want to turn around to start supporting the sequel. But this is calling out the Crew 1 player base of 12 million people, which I'm assuming that's how many people bought the game, not how many people were playing the game when it ended. You know, when a sequel comes out, a lot of people jump ship to the new server or the new game. So I don't think 12 million people were playing the game when servers were shut down. I think it might have been double digits. Maybe triple digit people were still playing the original Crew 6 years after the sequel came out. You know, hadn't jumped over to the sequel yet. So this initiative is talking about taking this petition to government in the EU to protect consumer rights in purchasing of games. You know, when you buy a video game, you should be able to keep it. Well, that's true, you know, like 90% of the time. That was more full than I thought. But when it comes to online games, that's in the terms of service. That it's not a forever game. You know, whenever you buy an online game, that's why they have you read the terms of service and agree to the terms of service to understand the terms of their service. You know, so you buy Call of Duty, and in the terms of service, it says, look, you're buying the solo campaign. At least this was a majority of Call of Duties. I don't know what recent Call of Duties are doing nowadays. I don't know if they're totally online, which would suck. But when you buy like a Call of Duty game, you're getting the single player campaign mode as well as access to online services, multiplayer, which a majority of Call of Duty players enjoy over the main campaign. That's why there was a couple Call of Duty games that just didn't have a campaign, because they realized, less than like a third of people who bought Call of Duty were finishing the campaign. So what you end up with is a terms of service that says, look, we are selling you this game that contains online functionality, and after an indeterminate amount of time, so sometimes the terms of service says, we'll let you know X amount of months in advance, that servers are going to be shut down. But after an indeterminate amount of time, probably, we'll say a solid 10 years. A lot of these games contain licensing properties along with it. Like the Crew had licensed vehicles in it, and they probably had the licensing for a decade, 2014 to 2024. So they probably will let you know in advance, but there's probably a set limit that they're just not telling you. It's like, oh, we have this song licensed for 8 years or something. So there's going to be an update in 8 years that's going to like disable this song, or we're going to shut down these online servers for, I don't know, this licensed, like if they have a skin for a gun or something. Yeah, the original Crew is dead. This is actually what I'm talking about. So the Crew launched in 2014, the sequel came out in 2018, and then 6 years after that, they shut down service for the Crew. They're making it sound like Ubisoft just pulled the plug on like this huge online game. Like they say player base of 12 million people, they probably mean 12 million people bought it. But the Crew 2 was already out. People had already jumped over to the Crew 2. It just wasn't sustainable anymore. You had maybe, I say upwards of maybe triple digits people playing this game. Globally, like around the world, maybe like 200, 300 people still playing the Crew 1. That's not sustainable as an online service. And I'm not here to like defend big business practices or anything. I'm not here to defend, microtransactions or anything that you would lose access to. Yo, what's going on, Arrow? I'm not here to defend the actions of companies that want to, sell you things and then pull the plug on their online services to, take those transactions away from you. You lose access to the digital content that you bought. That's not what I'm defending. What I'm defending here are the people, the developers that work on these games. You would have to completely rework how the Crew worked, because it is a totally online experience. If you wanted to save the Crew 1, they would have to completely rework how the Crew 1 was programmed, how it was built to play offline, because it was never designed to play offline. It was everything was in the servers, and that's in the terms of service when you bought the game. Or I guess in my case, when I got it free through Xbox Live. Or Games with Gold, as it was called back then. God, who remembers Games with Gold? So, I think that this is being intentionally subversive to try and garner more, like I said, player base of 12 million people. I don't think that's real. I think that's how many people bought the game, but they're using the biggest number possible to subvert the conversation, to make it seem like big companies are pulling the plug on, millions of players. That's not what's happening. That's not what is happening. So, going back to, say, Call of Duty. They sell you the game, and in the terms of service, they say, you will also get access to these online features. We will pull the plug someday. That is just a nature of online service games. Free-to-play online games, like, I don't know, isn't the Battle Royale version of Fortnite free-to-play with tons of microtransactions? So, Fortnite also has this. Also in the terms of service, it says, along with all kinds of... So, in terms of service, generally you get, since this is an online function, we can pull the plug whenever. We'll let you know in advance. It won't be sudden. There are protective practices like that in place for consumers. So they'll let you know in advance when they're pulling the plug. It's up to their discretion when to pull the plug. With any licensing that they have in the game, if that expires, they will either renew that or change that. So you might see some stuff disappear, like, I don't know, Deadpool and Wolverine are in Fortnite or something. I don't know. But we'll just say, like, Deadpool and Wolverine is like a big new movie. They probably did a crossover with Fortnite. I don't know if they did. But let's just say Deadpool and Wolverine are in Fortnite. They probably have those licensing. They got to pull the plug on League and see. See, that's another thing. League of Legends, with how that entire game is built and, like, architectured, that is an online-only game. There is no way to leave that in a... hang on. How did they word it? Maybe it was in this article. They want to leave it... Basically, I can't find the exact terminology they use, but basically they're asking for an end-of-life model for games to re-architecture, for developers to spend time to re-architecture an entire game into a playable offline service. How the hell are you going to do that for League? You're just going to play against bots forever? That's not conceivable. Like, first of all, League makes them buku dinero. There's no way they're just gonna fucking pull the plug on League anytime soon. Let's be real. But that's also just not viable. You know, if a game has reached such a low point in its service to where keeping the servers online are no longer profitable, yes, you're going to upset, at that point, you're going to upset a very slim margin of people. Like, if League ever dropped to just, like, triple-digit people, max, say, like, 900 players globally, if League fell off that hard, you're going to, yes, you're going to anger 900 people when you shut down the League servers, but it is just not feasible for Blizzard to keep those servers up. And again, I'm not here to defend ActiBliz or any big companies for any predatory actions. I want people to also realize that the developers who make these games are people. They are designed with human interaction in mind. League, it is designed for you to play against people. Games like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Elder Scrolls Online. These are designed with human interaction in mind. You're going to play with your friends, you're going to team up, and you're going to go do adventures. You know, you're going to go do quests, you're going to grind out levels with friends. You're going to do raid bosses with friends. All of these are designed with... But it is completely architectured as an online experience. Final Fantasy XIV is a huge, intricate game, completely architectured on online servers. The amount of effort that would go into stabilizing a game of that size, like World of Warcraft, which just had like 1 billion expansions, architecturing all that to play offline. First of all, think about how hollow that would be. Like, at the very least, if you're interacting with no one in these games, you're at least seeing other people. We would have dozens of Kingdoms of Anular Reckoning, which was an offline game, but designed with a MOBA philosophy. Or not MOBA, MMO philosophy, where it's just like these huge empty fields where you might see like raid bosses just hanging out and see people like running around to places, just big empty nothing. And it would lose something. It would lose part of its spirit, you know? These games are architectured, the developers behind them, you know, no matter where on the food chain they are in a company. Developers, people who make the games, generally at least start with a passion in the project. There's generally at least a passion somewhere in creating this game. And after 13 plus solo Final Fantasy adventures, they wanted to do an interactive one. They wanted to do a multiplayer game where people interacted with people. And there's plenty of Final Fantasy games to play offline by yourself, just for that RPG experience. But Final Fantasy XIV occupies such a specific space in being the online Final Fantasy. The Final Fantasy you can play with your friends if you want to. And it would just lose something if you didn't have that. So, Stop Killing Games, as an initiative, as a petition, is trying to get a bunch of signatures to put in front of EU legislation to say that people who buy online games or invest in online games, say through microtransactions, should be allowed to keep that, to keep the game that they buy, to keep the microtransaction stuff, which on paper it sounds like, oh, that's a very pro-consumer move. But it's also painting this I don't want to say it's making gamers look stupid, but it's literally in the terms of service of all online games that this is a limited time. You are purchasing a license to stream the game from their servers. It is purchase. You are buying a license of the game, not the game itself. Which, not everybody reads the terms of service. I get that. But it's this isn't like they're pulling the rug out of nowhere. Just read the fucking TOS. At least skim the TOS. Read the bulleted points. Like, I don't want to say they intentionally make terms of service incredibly long. They're just a huge company covering their asses any way they can, which, fine, whatever. But I believe this is setting a precedent, because this isn't law. As much as the people behind this want to tell you that, like, oh, if we get the signatures, it will become law. This is just a petition to put in front of people to start a conversation. To put in front of the people with the power to pass a law. Yeah, so they want to pass laws to preserve their favorite games. Well, the games are designed to be a zeitgeist. As I hound on it every day, that on all of these like big online games are just trying to be the only game you play. They're artificially creating the sense of FOMO with, you gotta do your dailies, you gotta get the seasons pack. This is a limited edition item, you gotta log in and play for 30 days straight to get this monthly item. You gotta do all of these things so you're not missing out. There was Overwatch 2 has a weird limited edition cycle on items. Like, every new season they'll have like a limited edition, special item. I never got into Overwatch 2, but I have a friend that plays a lot of it. From what I understand, it's like, it'll come in once, it'll disappear for a couple seasons, it'll come back again, and then disappear for a couple seasons, and then the third time it comes out, it's there permanently. So they keep having these, like, early drops of, like, oh, you better get it early, because it's gonna be, 4 or 5 seasons before it's there to stay. So they're trying to artificially create the sense of FOMO in, you gotta get everything, you can't miss out, all the Fortnite skins. Now, I believe this is starting the wrong conversation in trying to keep games like The Crew alive, because The Crew has a sequel that did very well, a sequel that is still doing well that people are playing. It's not like they pulled the plug and it's gone. The original Crew is gone forever. However, they offered an alternative to consumers. 2014 to 2018. So 4 years later, they offered an alternative. Because again, in the terms of service for The Crew 1, they said, hey, this isn't permanent. So The Crew 2 came out, and it had a bunch of new functionality. It had like boats, it had planes, and it had like a more detailed map of the United States and stuff. It was just, The Crew 2. It was The Crew with more stuff. And so they offered this alternative to players with, I don't think there's ever any malice behind it, but they do, in the terms of service, I'll keep hounding on it, they'll let you know this isn't permanent. So the Crew 2, they said, remember, the Crew 1 isn't permanent. Here's the Crew 2. 6 years later, the time between the Crew and the Crew 2 is shorter than the time between the Crew 2 and when the Crew 1 servers turned off. 4 years to 6 years. Which I think is a very reasonable amount of time for these games. So if we keep looking, proceed to destroy all working copies of the game when they decide to sever the connection to the servers. Again, this is starting the conversation of saying that all games are doing this, which I don't think is true. I believe a very small handful of games have added online functionality for no reason, only to sever connections later. Like, there was recently, Activision said that they're going to start demanding online functionality to Call of Duty games because they're going to stream textures to you, because Western companies don't know how to compress their fucking games. So they're going to sell you the game uncompressed, unfinished, and you have to stay online to stream textures, even in the, like, solo gameplay. That I hate. That, I will say, is bullshit, and that needs to be addressed. But it's not being addressed here. Instead, we get the example of The Crew, which I think had a very reasonable alternative presented, and I think a very reasonable amount of time, a decade passed between The Crew beginning and ending, which is very reasonable for an online-only game. And like I said, every online game is trying to be the only game you play, so anybody that does fall for, or anybody that is subjected to this artificially created FOMO, probably moved over to The Crew 2. Anybody that would have genuinely been upset or affected by this, other than diehard The Crew fans that were still playing it, all 300 of them, they are the smallest slice of the pie. You're never going to make everybody happy, because what you're going to do, if you try to re-architecture the entirety of The Crew to play offline for those 300 people, is you're going to have, say, 300 developers having to take time away from other projects that they're probably more passionate about to re-architecture a decade-old game for those 300. So you're going to swap out disgruntled consumers with disgruntled employees. And then there's probably going to be a dip in morale. You're probably going to see headlines of crunch put on these developers to re-architecture to The Crew to play offline. You're never going to make anybody happy. Or you're never going to make everybody happy. Which is why I think reading the terms of service is so important. Or at least understanding the nature of an online game. Which people who play online games understand the nature of online games. But I think what Stop Killing Games is trying to do is get to the issue of, hey, this game, like, this game had an offline, a single player experience that is no longer playable because the servers were shut down. Games that required connection to the server, even for single player play. Those games are the issue. But this initiative is not pointing fingers at those games. They mention, let's see if I can find his name somewhere around here. No, not Alexei. Where is... Oh, where is his name? I think his name was something Ross. Ross something? Ross Scott, who was working with Stop Killing Games campaign, said in a video that any political legislation coming from the competition is potentially an easy win. Coming from the petition is potentially an easy win for politicians. So, for people who have not seen that video from Ross Scott, Basically, he says that if we get, I can't say it for a fact, but if we get the signatures on Stop Killing Games, I think it'll pass. Because politicians, according to him, politicians like easy wins. And another point he makes is that it's a great subversion from serious topics. Video games aren't, real serious topics. So this is a great diversion for politicians. It's a great, basically they could take a day off. I don't want to put words in his mouth for this, but some of the points that he does make is that it would be an easy win unless it involves gambling and like children, the microtransaction stuff, that whole all of those very serious legal issues going on with games right now, where games are marketing gambling to children, the things that we should be concerned about. He said, if it's not involving that, politicians don't care. So if we present them with this, they'll pass it no problem. Which is kind of gross to me. Like the way he words it makes it sound like he doesn't even care. He's like, guys, this isn't a big issue. So if we present it to EU politicians, they'll just stamp a law on it and move on with their lives. Well, you're starting to create very gray precedent when you say all games. Because this is going to be presented to politicians, you want to present this as the ideal for a new law, you need to be specific. Right now, with the way that this is presented in all games, new game development is going to grind to a fucking halt, as every company now has to re-architecture all of their online games. Mobile games. Mobile games are online games. Fire Emblem Heroes, Pokemon Go. All of these. What's the other one? There was a Monster Hunter. There was a Monster Hunter Pokemon Go from Niantic. But all of these games will also have to be re-architectured. How are you gonna architect Pokemon Go to play offline? Doesn't it play with Google Maps? Doesn't Pokemon Go always require an online bit of functionality because of the nature of the game? Playing with the real world map of Earth? That's not reasonable. There's no way in hell that would ever work. So you're going to start getting huge companies coming down on this legislation. Again, this is only in the EU. So even if this does pass, even if they do get this in front of legislation looks at it, takes it seriously, and tries to go forward with something, since this is only in the EU, you're going to end up with not just additional time put in to create an offline experience for these online only games, which is going to feel so empty and boring and just be a shadow of what it was, and nobody's going to want to play them anymore anyway, because people play online games to play online. That's what they're there for. But you're going to end up with additional development time, we'll go back to Niantic. You're going to end up with additional time put in because they're going to need to build a version of the game for the EU that will play offline once the servers go down, and then they'll just have the normal one that everybody else is playing. Then they'll just have the one that, Pokemon Go. They're going to have to just make a whole new version of Pokemon Go on top of keeping everything else running as smoothly as they can for Pokemon Go, as well as their other, whatever the Monster Hunter one was. My issue here is that it's so vague, right? Or it's too broad. That's my issue here. It's so broad that it's creating problems that have already been dealt with in the terms of service. Again, I don't play that many online games, but I have an understanding that servers can and will be shut down eventually. So I think it's worth at least, like, also to tell your kids, if you have kids playing online games like Fortnite, make sure they understand. You know, we're always the part of Ross Scott's argument is that, I mentioned it before, that if it doesn't involve like kids and gambling, politicians don't care. They need to care. This isn't a conversation that should be happening. We should be having a conversation about protecting kids from online gambling spaces. And this is subverting attention from that. You know, he was saying that, like, oh, this isn't a serious topic, so politicians don't care. Then why would they look at it? Why would they even humor this if you don't think they care? We need to be focusing our attention more so on the microtransaction space. And instead of, I want to keep what I buy in an online game, we need to be legislating what you buy in an online game. If you can buy in an online game, who can buy in an online game? I don't think there's any law in place right now in the United States that makes, microtransactions, or like if a game contains easy thing to pass that gets votes from Epic EU gamers. The thing is, this is a petition. This isn't even like, oh, if we get the signatures, it becomes law. It's, if it gets the signatures, we might be able to put it in front of EU government. Yeah, and it's so brain dead to me. It's so brain dead to me to claim to have such a loving passion for online games. Oh, I love games so much. I want to keep all my games. You know, but instead of focusing on, because he it's worded, hang on. We don't see that as being a fair practice. Get robbed, so to speak, at any time if they decide to shut it down. Yeah, the service, the game, doesn't have an expiration date. Correct, but it's in the terms of service. It is a universally understood concept in the online gaming space, that it is an online game. You need internet unless you are a child, and you unplug the router in your home. You will understand no connection to server equal no game. Unless you are an actual child that has not had that explained to you. That online game require online. Hang on. There was one other, I wanted to just a final point. Yeah, this practice is effectively robbing customers of their purchases. Again, the common business practice is, we're going to make an online game and we will support it until interest dies out. You know, if it has thousands of people at launch, we will support it until it hits, a couple hundred, maybe double digits on a bad day. 30 people playing an online game, the company is losing money at that point. I do not begrudge a company for turning off servers which cost, thousands to operate. Around that, I genuinely, like, for global servers, probably thousands. Like, it's costing them more money to keep the servers up than they are making off of the game, Especially for, microtransactions for the crew. If you have diehard The Crew fans that were playing 10 years after the game came out, playing till 2024, they probably had everything they were gonna buy. You're not getting any more microtransactions out of people playing The Crew 10 years later. Nobody's buying The Crew 1 10 years later. Nobody's gonna buy The Crew this year and say, Oh boy. Like, okay. Another one, another example, and we can move on to something else soon, I promise. Another example is Titanfall. Titanfall 1 was an online-only service. You played the game online, the story was online. The Crew 2 did have an offline story. A fucking phenomenal story, if I may say so myself. The Crew 2, or not the Crew, Titanfall 2 plays like butter, and the like single-player story, really good. Highly recommend Titanfall 2. But when Titanfall 2 came out, a number of years later, they shut down servers to Titanfall 1. Like the Crew, they offered an alternative before shutting it down. It wasn't even like they shut down Titanfall 1 and then a few months later dropped Titanfall 2. There was a grace period, I guess, for lack of a better term. But here's my issue. Because I knew somebody who bought Titanfall 1 after the servers were shut down and couldn't play it. It was like $7 or something. This was a digital code that they bought. I don't know if it was through Steam or GOG, but they bought a digital key for Titanfall after the servers were shut down and couldn't play it. That's scummy. If companies just leave dead games up on storefronts, that I have an issue with. I have an issue with single-player games that require online functionality for no reason, and then when they shut it down, you can't play your single-player game anymore. That I have an issue with. I do not begrudge a company for creating online experiences like MMOs, MOBAs, games like Magic Arena, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, Hearthstone, like these online card games, Marvel Snap. I do not, like, what are you going to do when those go offline? What are you going to do when Marvel Snap, if you play one of these online games, Marvel Snap, Magic Arena, you're going to play against bots? No, you play these games to play against people. I don't know. I think I kind of beat this initiative to death here. Like, I'm out of things to say about it. Read the terms of service. We need to actually be focusing on legislation to protect consumers from microtransactions, to protect consumers from gambling, protect consumers from online-only games that don't need to be. There's other, more specific things to be targeting than just all games. Because then this starts creating problems that don't exist. It starts creating work for developers that are already being overworked. We need to start unionizing more developers. But let's talk about something fun. Hi-Fi Rush and Tango Game Works acquired by Krafton. So last month, Xbox and Microsoft announced that Tango Game Works would be closing. We talked about it before. Basically, like, in the same week that they announced that Tango Game Works, started by Shinji Mikami, the same week they announced that would be closing down, an exec at Microsoft Xbox said, we need to start making smaller games that win us awards. You know what Hi-Fi Rush did? Won them awards. It was a small, very fun, single-player game. You know, I played it on stream. I had so much fun. This game has so much charm and sauce and visual appeal. The gameplay is tight. This game is so fucking good. But not good enough. I don't know where the bar is anymore for Xbox. I don't know. Okay, so I will also say, for people who don't know Krafton, Krafton, I believe, is a Chinese-based game company, and they published PlayerUnknown's Battleground and the Callisto Protocol. I think are probably some of their bigger ones. I think they may have done like a few mobile games, but they're a known quantity. It's not like this company came out of nowhere. They made a couple of games that people have heard of, but this is big. This will allow the team to continue developing the Hi-Fi Rush IP and explore future projects. Hi-Fi Rush 2, please. That would be so fun. Or maybe, I don't want DLC for Hi-Fi Rush. I like Hi-Fi Rush is fine the way it is. If they wanted to do a sequel, I'd be fascinated to know what they do with it. It's interesting to note that I don't think they bring up the other things that Tango Game Works worked on, their other IPs, including The Evil Within, or what was their other Ghostwire Tokyo. Krafton and wait. There will be no impact to the existing game catalog. Huh. It doesn't say whether or not the IPs came with them. Commitment to innovation, delivering fresh and exciting experiences for fans. Maybe that's why I was confused. Because there will be no impact on the existing game catalog of Evil Within 2, Ghostwire Tokyo, and the original Hi-Fi Rush game. Yeah, it's not saying whether or not... They only specify that the Hi-Fi Rush IP came with them. Maybe that's why I was confused. But this is very good, because I thought that they were actually just gone. You know, they announced last month that they would be closing not Hi-Fi Rush, they'd be closing Tango Game Works, and people jumped ship, people ended up going to other companies. It sounds like they were able to keep a majority of the team, but Shinji Mikami, the founder, has already left the studio, which is unfortunate. So, you know, there's something to be said of if the director of the studio is gone, is it going to have the same sauce? Is it going to have the same appeal? Microsoft executive Aaron Greenberg said on X/Twitter in the past that Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit for Xbox, and its players are in all key measurements and expectations. The game performed exactly like they wanted it to. The game did just as well as they wanted it to, but it wasn't good enough. See, I'm still mad at Xbox for that, but good news, they're not dead. More Hi-Fi Rush. Just after, the stop killing games, this is a bit of good news. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. Is just that Krafton, this development company, or this publisher company that publishes a spectrum of games. Game did better than our other games, but it's not Mega Millions. Exactly. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, Krafton makes or publishes games across the spectrum of, PlayerUnknown's Battleground. Big, that Battle Royale style, online only game, which again, how would you do a Battle Royale offline? 99 bots? No. You play these games to play against people. But, so they make games like PlayerUnknown's Battleground, as well as the Callisto Protocol. They published the Callisto Protocol from last year, I think it was, which was a standalone, offline, horror sci-fi game. It was very, Dead Space. So, I have a modicum of faith. But also, I'm curious, Xbox. if Krafton bought them, were you not shopping these companies around? Fortnite already does the bot thing sometimes during low points of the day. Gross. But yeah, so this doesn't save Arcane Austin, the other company that they shuttered. They shuttered 3 companies that day: Alpha Dog, Arcane Austin, and Tango Game Works. Tango Game Works is the only one that was saved, unfortunately. But it tells me the fact that a company was able to come along and buy up Tango Game Works and Hi-Fi Rush tells me that Xbox probably wasn't shopping them around that hard, if at all. They probably just asked a couple big companies, like, hey, do you want these? No? Okay. But they didn't put up like a general ask, I guess, of, because there's some, what was it, Embracer Group that put 2K and Borderlands up for sale. They just announced that, like, hey, we want to sell these. Buyers, come to us. Would have asked first, given the other 2 didn't get saved. Yeah, I think this is Krafton coming to Xbox saying, hey, we heard you're shuttering these studios. We want that one. But I think if a company is going to shutter these studios, going to put people out of jobs, maybe shop them around. Maybe stop buying up so many studios. Xbox, PlayStation, all of you, Embracer Group. Stop buying up these studios, maybe. And you won't have to sell them or dissolve them and put people out of a job. But yeah, so that's good news. That's good. I want more Hi-Fi Rush. I'm just gonna, pinch of salt if it's gonna be like the first one without Shinji Mikami. All right, more the headline. Where'd the headline go? There we go. More Microsoft. Microsoft fights back against the Steam Deck with Xbox app update. This is just an interesting little thing that came up. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. This is probably like the smallest story from this month. Basically, it seems that Xbox is moving more towards the handheld space, but not in the way that PlayStation is, because PlayStation has kind of been rivaling, Sony and PlayStation have kind of been rivaling Nintendo in the handheld space with like the PSP, the Vita, and now the Portal, which is not super, like, PlayStation has this incredible way of creating unique peripherals that are so niche. Like, the Portal is such for a very specific bit of Sony's audience. And when not everybody adopts it, they say it's a failed idea and then they drop it. But Xbox seems to be moving the Xbox app towards... they seem to be moving... Microsoft seems to be moving Xbox more towards this app-based service. They're not going to be making a handheld Xbox. They are updating the Xbox app to work with these more open source third-party handhelds, like they specify here, the Asus ROG Ally. So they seem to be... It's weird because a lot of people in the space, in the gaming sphere, people who remember the console wars, liked to put, Xbox v Sony, and that's how it was. It was Xbox v Sony until, I would say, the last console generation, with the PS4 and the Xbox One, and the One S and the One X and all those. But it seems like now Sony and Nintendo are moving in a similar direction. Nintendo, again, as a Sony fan, it's hard for me to stay unbiased, but let's be real. Nintendo has more interesting technology, and I think Sony has the better equipment under the hood, is what I'll say. The Switch is a fascinating bit of kit. The Switch, and I mean, the games are subjective. Both of them have exclusives that are going to appeal to a certain audience. I think Nintendo has a more has a wide variety of Nintendo has a wide variety of genres, but Sony I think has a wide variety of age ranges that they appeal to. You know, you have your Ratchet and Clanks and your Astros and your Sackboys, and then you have, for like rated M audiences, you have God of Wars. For the teen audience, you know, rated T for teen, you have Spider-Man. You know, you have your Horizon games. Like, I think Sony appeals to a wider age range, specifically, you know, but Nintendo, I think, has a wider genre selection. I don't know, splitting hairs after a certain point, but it feels like Sony and Nintendo are moving in a similar direction of focusing on unique new bits of hardware. You know, like Sony's got their PSVR 2, the Portal. Nintendo's got the Switch, and then they had their cardboard stuff. They had the Ring. They have the new Switch Sports. You know, a successor to Wii Sports with, you know, the motion controls and the Joy-Cons and stuff. They're doing things with technology to create more unique experiences, and the DualShock has it's more interesting under the hood stuff. Sony has their haptic feedback DualSense controllers, which if you've never held one, if you've never played with one, it's hard to really it's not hard to explain, but like it feels better than it could be conveyed. Where like when you pull a trigger in your shooty gun game, there's like actual, you know, it's not just, it doesn't feel like pressing a button. There's actual give. Like in one of the new in the new Ratchet and Clank game for the PS5, there's a weapon, there's a shotgun. You're able to pull the trigger, and there's a little bit of a stopping point, and you got to put a little more pressure on it to pull it all the way. If you pull it that first little way, it fires one barrel. If you pull it all the way, it fires both barrels. And that feels good. When you play a shooter and you pull the trigger on, say, an automatic weapon, it feels good. Like it has like a little bit of a click to it. Like it pushes back a little bit with each shot. You know, it offers a bit more like actual feedback, which again is just an interesting under the hood thing, and it's not required for most games. There's only a handful of PS5 games that have actually used this, just like there's only been a handful of PlayStation games that have used the touchpad in the middle. The PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 controller have a touchpad in the middle, and most times they just use the button that's in it. It's a touchpad that you can, you know, move your thumb around on, or you click it, and it's got like two buttons on either side of this big touchpad. But nobody really uses the touchpad. But it seems like Microsoft is like it says here, they're going up against Steam in a digital market space. You know, I mentioned it before that we might only get one more Xbox before Microsoft completely shifts to an app model to where Xbox Game Pass is the only thing you can get with Xbox, and it's just a subscription service. It's just the Netflix of games, even though Netflix has games now. It's just the Netflix of games where you're just paying for an online service, and you can get this app, this game streaming app, on your Steam Deck, on your ROG Ally, on your PlayStation, on your Switch. And it's just an online service that you pay monthly or annually for streaming these games. And that's just what this feels like. It feels like they are moving more towards that. They're making the Xbox app more compatible with more systems. All right. Moving over to Sony. Here we go. Sony announces incubator program for MENA developers. Elections should have a minimum lobby size, and if not enough people run or are in the finals, they'll autofill the rest of the lobby with bots to balance teams. Oh, man. Just artificially created politicians? Gross. So, Sony announces incubator program for MENA developers. For people who don't know what MENA is, MENA stands for Middle East North Africa, that region. So I've always been an advocate for like stories from around the world. I'm always fascinated to hear, what this is the society that also heralded the new Super Olympics. Oh man. So I've always been a champion for stories from around the world. There was Legends of Kensera Zao from late last year. I played it earlier this year on stream. It took, I believe it was Swahili culture, and it was a game about, a son losing his father. It was a very, I think, losing a loved one, I think, is a very universally understood story. But it presented it through this layer of an interesting and fascinating culture that we don't see a lot of in any medium, really. So I'm a big fan. And Black Myth Wukong, which we'll talk about in a second, that's the next story. Black Myth Wukong that just came out. It's from a Chinese developer about Chinese mythos and Chinese culture. Fascinating. We get a lot of Japanese, we get a lot of like European mythos, Greek and Nordic gods and stuff, or we get a lot of Japanese culture through the recent prevalence, I will say, well, relatively recent, last couple decades, of manga and anime, and gaming is huge in Japan, so we get lots of games from Japan. But Middle East and North Africa, here in the West, the only time we see the Middle East is when it's war propaganda, and that's not a good thing. That's really not a good thing. Now, I will also say up top, because of course, when we're talking about when we're talking about, I guess, the governments of other nations, because this is tied to the Middle Eastern government. The Middle Eastern government has been putting a lot of money into gaming around the world. They, the Middle East is who is helping fund and is hosting the first Olympic esports event next year, which again, I'm really excited for, but it is also worth noting that, it's a government. They have their fingers in a lot of pies that I don't agree with, but I think we should, keep the conversation on games. And if you're wondering why I'm bringing it up, if I just want to keep the conversation on games, that's the next story. But again, we'll get to that. But this is really cool, in my opinion. Sony is going out of the way. I hate esports culture. I do like, because I'm not a very competitive person, I find the idea of finding competition where it wasn't initially fascinating. Like, I don't like esports in the sense of, say, like fighting games or MOBAs. I'm not like or Smash Brothers. Like, that's not where I like the competition. I like competition in things like really enjoy the angle of global cultural outreach and output. I think that kind of cultural enrichment is only a good thing. Correct. I worry about the potential indie devs being shoveled into the machine. Also correct. So I think this is a good thing, because it's allowing more people, specifically they do say specify Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia is the company that is the country that's hosting the Olympics next year. The UAE, Bahrain, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Jordan, Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia. Middle East and North Africa. So I think this is really cool to give indie developers from this region a platform, but I think we're also going to see a lot of Sony branding on it. Sony presents a game from this company. Sony presents, part of the. We're so happy to have this game as part of the PlayStation family, but I feel like there's not going to be there. I feel like they're not going to. They might do it as like a good PR pull, but to be like, oh, the Mina Hero Project is going really well. Here are some of the games from the Mina Hero Project, and at some Jeff Keighley event, and they're going to start showing off a bunch of games that are being worked on by companies from these countries. So I think this is generally a good thing, but I think Sony's going to they're going to put, some of these people on stage, and they're going to have a thing to say of like, we want to thank, Sony Interactive Entertainment for this wonderful opportunity. And they're gonna, instead of half of the time of talking about the game that they're super excited about making, the thing that they're passionate about, half of that time is gonna be, Sony good, which, is part of being sponsored, is part of being funded. If I'm talking about best case scenario in a capitalist world, I like the idea of AAA companies making games that aren't owned by like 3 or 4 megalith company families. Yeah. I think more companies need to be publishers and leave the developers alone. Wait for developers to make a game and they're looking for publishing instead of just buying a company and then overseeing all of their development. Instead of just like a big hawk sitting over them, waiting for them to make more games. Let developers just make the games they want to make, and then they'll shop them around. Then they'll say, hey, we're looking for a publisher. In the cultural outreach angle, oh yeah, like I want tons of companies from all of these countries. I don't want one big game company in Egypt making tons of games. Because I believe that there are dozens of game companies in Egypt looking for publishers. Today's diplomacy is brought to you. Today's diplomacy is bought by you from Sony. But yeah, I think in general, this is a really good thing to deliver just an outreach to Saudi Arabia. And everyone else is just a bonus. Yeah, like, and again, like it's not inherently a bad thing. Saudi Arabia is putting a lot of money into the gaming sphere. Part of it is because they're trying to increase their image on the global stage. People like gaming, will endear ourselves to them by funding gaming. But it's also worth saying, because this is part of their government, it is also worth saying that they also have some policies that aren't good. I don't want to get too in the weeds about it, but you should always, check your sources. And if the source comes from a country's government, it's worth noting, okay, why are they pumping so much money into gaming? It couldn't be that their whole government is a net positive. I just have my fears. Yes. How these companies will swoop in for any and as much money as possible from any angle despite the morality. Yes. I think this is a net positive. This is a net positive asterisk. I'm excited for this. I will be keeping my eye on it. So the reason why it's important to bring up even though it is a game from a game company, it's worth bringing up the government. Like I talk all the time about, Call of Duty Shoot-A-Man is really just, they're really fun, shooter games. A lot of early Call of Duty games were propaganda, I guess. Part of the US government being like, oh, we're at war with the Middle East. Gotta fight the Middle East. Sony legit tried to copyright an entire art style because of the success of a movie. I don't trust them. No, absolutely not. But the reason I bring all this up is because of Black Myth Wukong. So, Black Myth Wukong is from a Chinese game studio. Unfortunately, I can't remember right now. game science. So from game science, Black Myth Wukong has been doing fucking great. It's been selling millions in just a few days. Like, it is doing fucking incredible. Which, good. This game looks beautiful. I think it's telling, like, a rich and interesting story about Sun Wukong. Which, you know, I think the most that Western audiences might know of Sun Wukong would be fucking Goku from Dragon Ball. Like, it's been, which is, you know, Chinese myth used in Japanese media, translated for a Western audience. But this is, you know, Chinese myth from a Chinese developer presented to the world. Big fan of this. Now, they did, the Game Science sent out codes, early access codes, you know, review codes to outlets, content creators, and said, don't talk about some things. Which, some of them feel like a little push from their government, like not talking about COVID-19. Given the nature of COVID-19 and how the at least here in the West, there was a massive push against China in the wake of COVID-19. You know, a lot of racist sentiment called it like the China virus and stuff. There was a lot of, you know, anti-Chinese sentiment over COVID-19, and there was even conspiracy theories that said that China made it and some stuff like that. All that's gross. All that, don't worry, like, that's disgusting. That's in the past. But I understand why the Chinese government would ask, like, hey, you're sending this globally to content creators and reviewers all over the world. Ask them, tell them, don't talk about COVID. Because that is just, you know, we don't need that. Which I get. I get why they wouldn't want people to talk about that. Because the only thing you would have to talk about, if you're the kind of person to bring up COVID-19 while playing Black Myth Wukong, 95% of, if you're the kind of person to bring it up, 95% chance you're problematic and, you know, you just want it to use it as a platform, as an excuse to spread whatever bullshit you want to spread. 5% chance you might bring it up if you're saying, man, this game was announced pre-COVID and I was excited for it, you know, or I think it might have been announced like 2016, 2017. Like, this game has been in development a long time. But, like, that might be, like, the only reason that, like, a normal person would bring it up. Is like, this is pre-COVID and I was excited for it. That's not, like, inherently a bad thing. What was the feminist propaganda angle? See, that's the thing. The company has been accused of some sexist practices. Game Science, the company that made Black Myth Wukong, apparently there are some accusations going around of sexist workplace. Here's the thing. A lot of people, like, with the review copies and stuff, didn't know about this. Wouldn't have known about this. That's why I think it is so funny when it says it backfired. Because if you tell me not to mention COVID-19, I'm going to say, sure, whatever. There's probably a lot of companies that don't want us to bring up, you know, COVID-19. But when a company tells me not to talk about feminist propaganda, I'm going to start Googling you. I'm going to start asking, like, even just reading that, I'm going to be like, okay, maybe I don't even want to play your game. Like, if this came from the West, if this came from a Western company that said, don't talk about feminist propaganda, I'd be like, oh, you sound disgusting. I don't think I want to play your game anymore. Yeah, new action role-playing game came out this week. Don't bring up COVID-19. Don't bring up isolation. Don't bring up Taiwan as a real country, which again is probably something from their government, which is why it's always important to remember, you know, any game that comes from any country there's going to be some kind of not oversight, but there's going to be something that comes down from the government. You know, in America, you know, we make propaganda. Yeah. Wait, like in the game, real life, what's the propaganda I need to be wary of, right? Yeah, so that is also, you know, that is bad, but that is 100% just from the country itself, regardless of how the company feels about Taiwan. It's from their country, it's from the government, and feminism propaganda. The stream, so it was a creator named Moon that brought this up. Did not include anything out of the ordinary of the video game playthrough. Just one cheeky nod at to a few topics the Chinese studio Game Science, which developed the game, would rather ignore. Signals that the Chinese studio are ready to compete directly with established Western Japanese developers AAA space. Yes. So this is like, it's a great game that's reviewing really well, and it's like, oh, you know, these countries that we don't really hear a lot of in the gaming space can make games. That's awesome. That's awesome. I would love to see more games from around the world, stories from around the world. But yeah, they nor to use trigger words such as quarantine, isolation, COVID-19. Makes sense. Don't include. The more recent thing is that a female game reviewer from Screen Rant made a review before launch that said the game wasn't inclusive, had no women or people of color. People have now played the game, and tada, there are multiple women in the game, and after being harassed by people online, she admitted in private that she hadn't played the game, period, and was pushed to put out a review to get clicks, which was just fueled the hate mission. Interesting. I'm going to. Do you have a source for that? Do you have like an article for that I can look at? Reviewer from Screen Rant. All right. I'm just gonna weave. Let's look up. Black Myth, Wukong. Feminism. Forbes talking about it. Ah, all these fucking pop-ups. Fuck you, get out of here. All right. Yeah, if you wanna look for that, and then you can drop it here. While we wait for that, I'm just gonna start dropping. If anybody is interested in the articles that I've been reading or in the stream stuff, I'm just gonna start. Come on. Copy that link. I'm just going to start dropping these in the podcast resources tab in the Discord server. If anybody is interested in anything we've been talking about, anything that we cite, anything that we source, like any articles that we read, we do copy this link for Hi-Fi Rush. Drop that. Microsoft's update. Mina project. Drop that. All of the links are dropped in the Discord server as we talk about them. And if you want to join the Discord server, it should be permalinked somewhere in the Twitch bio. But I'm also just going to drop a link right there if anybody's interested in these articles or just a general hangout. That's where we vote on the games that I play and all that fun stuff. I'm actually gonna close these. We don't need all these anymore. All right, and let's also bring in the Black Myth Wukong story. But yeah, I think this is just such a shot in the foot, if I'm being honest. It's just so funny to me that they don't, like, they could have said nothing and it would have gone completely, like, unnoticed. Writer-researcher streamed herself playing the game while discussing Journey to the West, the novel Black Myth. Oh yeah, here we go. Rui Zhang, a writer and researcher, streamed herself playing the game while discussing Journey to the West and novel Black Myth is adapted from, as well as feminism in China and the country's one-child policy. Zhang has previously written about Chinese censorship for Wired, which is where this article comes from. What bothered me was that a lot of the streams pushing back against the game's guidelines are very low effort and played into stereotypical, surface-level impressions of Chinese politics and society. Misogyny in development, game spaces, and elsewhere are not a uniquely Chinese problem. It's not the only place where feminists are framed as male haters, as the devs have said. Yeah, so it is like a systemic problem. Yeah, gaming news can be absurd. It's absurd. Yeah, misogyny is not a strictly Chinese problem in the gaming space. Like there was that huge ActiBliz issue that dropped last year, a couple years ago. Like the frat culture that was going on at ActiBliz. Like there's tons of companies that are just that are gross, and we need to be more diligent, and I think we do need to call out these companies when it happens, you know. And you can make the argument of, oh, these, you know, it's a product of their culture, you know, but it's still like a mistreatment of you know, workers, regardless of gender. It's a mistreatment of workers, which is the issue. But yeah, it feels basically the long and the short of it is they told on themselves, you know, that there was that there was an issue, which at the end of the day, that's your fault. So I say it a lot, speak with your wallet, you know. The thing is, this game still looks very good, but, you know, I'll probably buy it secondhand. You know, like if I find it used at like my local game store, I'll support my local game store with this purchase. The money doesn't go to them, you know, or, you know, I'll buy it on sale. You know, I'll find it cheap somewhere else. I can wait for this one, you know. As much as I was, you know, excited for it, it's unfortunate, you know, but it's also not unheard of that this is an issue. You know, it's not just one country, it's not just one company that has this issue, but there's like this big systemic issue in the gaming space globally, like all over the world. You know, culture is an excuse to mistreat people, to mistreat people. If a person were to indulge in slavery in the U.S., they can't defend it with traditionalism or culture. No, but the argument that people would make, not for slavery, God, no. But the argument that people would make is, you know, and this is why, like, I think it's important to talk about like the policies of a country. Is, again, going back to like Saudi Arabia putting a lot of effort, a lot of money into the gaming space, China entering the world stage in the gaming space. The argument is like, well, you know, people don't have the same rights in different countries, and it's like, well, that's an issue. It's an issue that people don't have rights, you know, and that could just be, oh, Western mind, you know. It's like, you're just that's just because you were born in a country that has these policies. And it's like, well, yeah, I was. So I'm also a product of my environment. So your argument is now also on me of I'm a product of my environment, and I believe in the rights for people. I believe in human rights. But yeah, I just think it's unfortunate that they told on themselves. Like I said, I still want to play it. Probably gonna wait till I find it secondhand. But the big one, big piece of gaming news: Gamescom. One of Jeff Keighley's big events. We had Gamescom opening night, which showed off a bunch of new games. I'm trying to think if there's anything that we knew about that was shown off. We can just run down the list here. So, what was announced? What was talked about? Borderlands 4. Whenever I see someone say westernized, they exclusively mean inclusion. They always exclusively mean inclusion and human rights. What about Yeehaw and Gun? That we should westernize more games by making everybody wear cowboy hats. But yeah, like, and again, like, it feels like human rights should be like and I know this is like a big global contentious issue about like what dictates human rights, because there's, you know, there's every country has its own people in charge and its own policies and stuff, which is a whole other thing. That's not what this stream is about. The stream is about J-gaming. It's just that in the J-gaming space, when games come from different countries, we do have to take into account those countries' policies. You know, even between like English-speaking countries, like traditionally English-speaking countries, like we'll say the UK and America, between these two countries, there's still policy differences. And there's still differences in what is and isn't, you know, acceptable for a game. We have different rating systems. We have the ESRB versus PEGI. You know, we have different systems in place to protect consumers, going back to stop killing games. Their big argument is that, like, oh, there's like a bunch of consumer protection things in France, and that's what we'll use. Well, France is a country. You're talking about trying to bring these policies globally. That's so hard to do. That's hard to do with things that, like, I love games. One of my favorite art forms. I think gaming is important to our culture, like, genuinely. Like, I think an interactive medium of storytelling is super important to our culture, being able to identify more with, you know, what's happening, and also, you know, the entertainment aspect and all that, and all the money to be made in it. Video games make more money than any other entertainment industry. But it's also a hobby. Yes, it's a lot of people's lives, and it's a lot of people's like, it's my day-to-day. My day-to-day is gaming, but it's also, at the end of the day, like, human life is more important than gaming. And it's in trying to push these policies about gaming, you're sucking the air out of the conversation of bringing human rights globally. You know, getting fresh water to people all over the world, getting food to people all over the world. Hobbies are some of the easiest to get around the world. It's impressive, yeah. But trying to legislate that, trying to create laws and legislation for a hobby like this, I think, as important as it is to protect children from gambling, to protect, you know, kids from you know, predatory microtransactions and all that stuff, I legitimately think it's more important to get food and water to people, you know, humanitarian aid globally. But again, different countries have different legislations. So trying to get a globally understood legislation for game preservation, I don't think is as important. I think genuinely, at this point, companies don't care enough. It is on us, the consumer, on us, the gamer, to preserve games. I think we are the end-all be-all of game preservation because companies are just going to keep moving forward, which is their want. I digress. Getting back into Gamescom opening night, we were shown some tasty fucking trailer. This is a great subversion, I will say, because I've seen the Borderlands movie twice now. And it's dog shit. The Borderlands movie's dog shit. But dropping a cool ass trailer for Borderlands 4 is such a great subversion. It's such a great, like, oh, the Borderlands movie that sucked? What are you talking about? Anyway, here's Elpis from Borderlands the pre-sequel. Here's the, pretty sure this is the moon, or is that, I think it's the moon. It could be Pandora, but I think that's Elpis, the moon of Pandora. But yeah, we got a lot of like really cool things out of Azelf can just show up. Do you know Azelf can just show up on your street corner? Yeah, God, I'm so fucking excited for this. Yeah, so it's such a great, like, apology. It's such a great subversion tactic to be like, oh, the Borderlands movie, because you can tell they wanted to do like a, you could tell they wanted to do like a 1-2 combo of like, here's the movie, here's the next game. Instead, it's like a fake out and then a hook. It's a much better maneuver than Guys, It's Not Fair. I know everyone says the movie is bad. Oh my God. When some singer creates a whole psychological term? Huh? Hopefully they don't do the stupid... Oh, the Streisand effect? Yeah. Hopefully they don't do the stupid Epic exclusivity thing. Oh, that's fair. I hadn't even thought about that because I play on console a lot of the time. But if I want to play Borderlands 4 with my friends, I guess I'd have to look into getting it on Steam. But yeah, unknown about the exclusivity, but I'm excited for that one. Mafia: The Old Country. Honestly, this feels like a natural progression of the franchise. Like, don't worry, if they do it, it'll be 6 months later for 50% off. Yeah, that's fair. You just have that FOMO of like, no, I can't play, you know, I can't play it right away. The FOMO. But yeah, honestly, like, Mafia: The Old Country, I feel like this is like a good natural progression of the, like, there's that new Doom game coming out that's like sword and shield, like sorcery Doom, like a ye old knight fighting demons and stuff. Like, that's a cool spin-off game. This is a cool idea for a spin-off game. That's fun. I like that. Forget Mafia's a franchise. Like, I'll see it on sale, notice it exists, and immediately forget it. That's fair. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Right here, Mafia game. I think of Facebook Mafia City. Gross. Jesus. I haven't thought about Facebook games in forever. So, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I'm still pretty excited for this. And they did say... I was on that shit, but not as much as... Why am I not surprised you had so many cows? So I think this is really cool, showing Troy Baker like in the suit, like as Indy. I do think that's fun. But they did specify Xbox executive. I think it was Phil Spencer. I think Phil Spencer was here. He did specify that, you know, it will start as an Xbox exclusive, but I never said it would never come to PlayStation. So, you know, I'll probably wait for it to come to PlayStation to play it. I don't think my PC could run this. But, like, I'll play it. I'm excited for it. I like Indiana Jones. And it seems different enough than, yeah, and it seems different enough from, like, the Uncharted games. You know, the Uncharted games are, like, third-person, more exploratory cover shooter. This seems to incentivize... Yeah. This feels more like, if you look at the gameplay, you know, it's first person, and it seems to incentivize puzzle solving, and it seems to incentivize more than just gunplay. Like, he uses the whip and stuff. You should play Phantom Abyss. Oh, hang on. Blap, blap. Phantom Abyss. What am I looking at? Oh, Devolver. So this game's gonna go hard, huh? This game's gonna be like actually good, right? Oh, Devolver. Looks like a fun sim game. Oh, are you talking about Indiana Jones? First-person temple run, but platforming and treasure collecting. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll look into it. But yeah, like, I think this does look like a very good, like, probably the best experience of get to play as indie. Like, I'm looking forward to it. But I can wait until it comes to to PlayStation. Black Ops 6. All right. Now, not every cockadookey game is for me. I'll admit it. And I don't like that Activision was talking about, we're gonna make you stream your textures now. That sounds dumb. If we can get to like gameplay here, like it looks like another. Lurk for a bit. All good. Have a good one, Mew. If I don't talk to you later. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing okay. Hope your translator job is doing good. Well, I mean, this is Black Ops 10 because there was no. I'm thinking of Modern Warfare. That got new games with new games with the same name for some reason. Because Modern Warfare, there's like the new Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 that are not the old Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, I think this is just Black Ops 6. I don't think they did like, oh, this is Call of Duty Black Ops, but it's like different from the original, like they did with Modern Warfare. But yeah, like it looks. Here's the thing. Call of Duty does a very good job, in my opinion, of making vertical slices. They do a very good job of making commercials and trailers that make their games look good. But I just gotta tell myself they're always the same. I'll see reviews of this and form an opinion, and they're showing a lot of the single-player gameplay that nobody's gonna play it for. People are gonna play for the online functionality. We all know that. It's just, oh, fun new, gun, fun new, game, not new gameplay, but, the guns are going to feel different. The running is going to feel different. All that stuff. But it's another Call of Duty. So, big ups to Call of Duty fans, but this one's probably not for me. Dying Light, The Beast. This is a thrilling standalone zombie adventure set in a tightly crafted rural region. So we had Dying Light and Dying Light 2, which were, again, online zombie survival game. Fun and fine. I heard really good things about Dying Light 2. It's one of those things of like, Dying Light didn't quite get it right, but Dying Light 2 like tightened everything up, and that's the one. Yeah. Like, I enjoy a good first-person survival horror game. I'll say it every time. Like, Resident Evil 7 is just a good game, regardless of how it fits into the Resident Evil timeline and stuff. Like, Resident Evil 7 is just a good... I have literally exactly the opposite opinion. Dying Light 2 ruined it? Ooh. I've not heard that, because I know a lot of people that like still play Dying Light 2. But yeah, this seems like a good, gave you superhuman abilities, like double jumping. So that kind of broke the immersion of survival horror. That sucks. Wow, this is like, I will say, hang on. Isn't this the exact same like layout as the town, the village reveal in RE Village? Dying Light 2 is okay. Really enjoyed one horrible survival game. Yeah, okay. Became a cool parkour game. If I wanted a cool parkour game, I'd play Mirror's Edge. But yeah, like, change the like warm light to a cold light, change it to like a blue and white, and this is just like coming out of the forest in like Resident Evil Village. You got like Castle Demetres, you've got the village. Oh yeah, Mirror's Edge is such like a butter smooth, like everything feels so intentional. Anyway, yeah, a standalone Dying Light game. I'll be on the lookout for reviews for it. But this one isn't super high on my list. It's just cool that that's happening. Like, that seems to be the theme for a lot of games that are being announced. Like, there's the Doom game that is just like knights with swords and shield. Like, that's a cool idea for a little standalone spin-off game. You don't have to play the previous Doom games. Dying Light the Beast, you don't have to play the previous Dying Light games. Mafia the Old Country, you don't have to play the previous Mafia games. Like, just good, solid, standalone, like, unique ideas for, like, long-standing franchises, you know, or established franchises. Directive 8020. The Beast is directly linked to the first one? See, I wouldn't have known that. I hadn't played the other ones. But I could probably get something out of, The Beast, you know, without playing the first one. So yeah, this looks fine. If you like the Dark Picture anthology, you could get something out of this. Okay. I don't have an issue with the Dark Picture anthology games. I don't have an issue with Supermassive games. They've just never. For people that don't know about the Dark Picture anthology, it's Supermassive's anthology series that they did post Until Dawn. They did Until Dawn, and Until Dawn, the name certainly needs work. Oh, for sure. So they made Until Dawn, and Until Dawn did really well. So then they just decided to do that a bunch. You know, they just have like the faces of the actors, like Lashana Lynch, Captain Marvel and the Woman King. Like, I recognize her. I think, Will Poulter? I think Poulter was in some of the Dark Picture games. Ashley Tisdale was in the Dark Picture games. And, like, they keep the actors, like, real faces. Like, the part of the marketability is, oh, look, recognizable faces in our games. But, like, they just don't appeal to me. So, really happy for Supermassive fans, because I know they're out there. I know Supermassive fans exist. And this looks like a fun new direction. You know, from kind of supernatural, kind of like more grounded horror maybe, to something kind of sci-fi themed. That's cool. That's a cool new direction for them. Goat Simulator Remastered. It's Goat Simulator Remastered. I'm not going to worry about even looking at the trailer. Okay, the trailer's kind of funny. They purposefully, like... Someone must be feasting. So, this is a prison... I think this is a really funny idea. It is a prison of bad remasters. Like, they make fun of... They make fun of bad remasters in the... Yeah. Warcraft 3 Reforged being fucking horrible in every way. Like, this idea works for me. There's GTA Remastered, the terrible GTA collection. There's one of the Assassin's Creeds. I think it was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood that had, like, the really awful remaster on PS4. Like, this works for me. It's funny, but like it's still Goat Simulator. It's gonna be the same. The humor in Goat Simulator was stale 3 years after Goat Simulator came out. So a decade on. Oh yeah, literally the 10th anniversary for Goat Simulator. It's Goat Simulator. You know Goat Simulator. King of Meat. It's another party game. Co-op combat game from Amazon. Coming to all major platforms. User-created dungeons is fun. You know, it's very... I always like the idea... I've always been a fan of the idea of, like, Mario Maker likes, or there was another one, Meet Your Maker, which came out last year. King of Meat would be an excellent adult dancer name. So, I've always been a fan of user-created levels as a concept, but I don't think it's enough... Unless it's the most recognizable IP ever, like Mario Maker, unless it's the most, you know, like, this, like, people can recognize a Mario game and a Mario level, I don't think user-generated content like this is... Sent you a small paragraph about the Black Myth thing in Discord because it wouldn't fit on Twitch. TLDR, can't find a reliable source for author didn't play game, but it was her first review ever. She gets enough dead wrong in the review that it seems true. Interesting. That's always unfortunate. When you see that a few times where somebody was just like either, and I'm not saying this was the case for her, but like you could tell somebody was paid money to just be like, okay, here are the bullet points we want you to hit. Say like these things, right? Like we want you to hit these points, or somebody who only plays through, because there's so many games to play and review, they play through like the first hour, and it's like, I have an idea of the game, because like there's so many games. I'm just gonna a female character appears in chapter 2, and she said that there weren't any female characters. Interesting. Well, unreliable source, eh? That's unfortunate. Oh, real quick, just while I'm tabbed over into Discord, let's drop this Polygon article on all the games that were announced. All right. Back to it. So yeah, King of Meat is, like... I like the idea of the user-generated content, but I think level creators should be in addition to a game. Like, Mario Maker, I think, only works because it's Mario, honestly. But, like, I think Orcs Must Die has, like, a level creator on top of a story mode and stuff. But Meet Your Maker was a game that came out, and I think it did really well at first, and then, like, petered off. RIP. We should never leave food unattended. Linked. Banner of the Spark. Oh yeah, this one. Arcade-inspired co-op adventure that blends hack-and-slash combat with roguelike and town-building elements. The reason I, like, kind of blocked this out, none of that... Co-op adventure is fun. I like couch co-op, but it blends hack-and-slash. I'm really hit and miss on my hack-and-slash. I don't like every hack-and-slash game that I play. I don't like every roguelike that I play. Hello? There we go. I don't like every roguelike that I play. Town building elements, again, I don't... Not a you know, diehard fan of town building sims. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun combination of enough ideas. This is another one that I imagine... it doesn't specify, but I imagine this is going to be one of those games that's like a month after release, it's going to be on PlayStation Plus or day one on Game Pass. Like, this strikes me as a game that they're going to want people to jump into to... You could show people a game, but that's not the same as them playing it. So I imagine some platform is going to want people to play it to get people into it, you know, word of mouth. And that's what reviews are for. But I feel like there's going to be an instance of, we want to get these into, like, consumers' hands so they get it, you know? Wishlist now on Steam. Always wanted to make a tower defense city builder defender. Build a city, but the idea is that you could build it in a way to make certain modes of transportation easier. So, like, as you build your city, it gets harder and harder to tower defend. And you have to balance between towers that, if you build enough slope ramp buildings, you can jump over roads and streets. That sounds fun. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. It's another don't nod, your choices matter game. Much like Supermassive's Dark Picture Anthology, this has its fans. It's going to be another one of, you know, it's going to be another one of those Life is Strange, like different colors, strange colors. What was the... I don't remember. But much like the Dark Picture Anthology, all of these play the same. You know what to expect. These kinds of games have their fans. But I feel there's only like 5 good ones, and the rest are bland as hell. I have a very soft spot for the Ratchet & Clank tower defense game, which is, in America it was called Full Frontal Assault. In the EU, I believe it was called Q-Force. It's extremely short. It's only like 5 levels, but it has a very fun balance of, you go and explore a level, and then it's like, oh, a wave of enemies is incoming. So you have to go back to a base, build up defenses, go out and explore the world. It has a very fun balance of that, and it also kind of incentivizes playing in 2-player, so that, like, somebody is always close to the base. Yeah, and I don't like RTS, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, real-time strategy is fine, but, like, it's got to be a game that I can play with my friends. Like, I don't mind Stellaris. Stellaris has it's an RTS with a lot of gritty functions, with a lot of gritty mechanics. But, like, I don't mind playing that with my friends. But, like, I just can't bring myself to... It's because... how do I... It's like the most removed... It feels like my brain processes RTS games as, even though it's real time, my brain processes all the little units as like, okay, this almost feels turn-based. I know it's not, but my brain just cannot compute real-time strategy because like I have to scroll over, I have to see everything that's going on, and I could be missing something. Not a fan. I also don't like being that removed from the action. Like, the only reason I can play Baldur's Gate 3 is because you can bring the camera way down to basically an over-the-shoulder. If the camera was, like, way out, like, I don't know, like a Diablo game, I wouldn't be able to play Baldur's Gate 3. If the camera's that far removed from my player character, I just lose interest. But yeah, these games play the same. This will have an audience. Arc Raiders. Embark Studios, creators of The Finals, a game I've never heard of, brought its long-delayed shooter, Arc Raiders, to Gamescom for a re-reveal. The player versus everyone action survival shooter is now coming in 2025 to all major consoles except Switch. Public tech test scheduled for late October, 24th to the 27th. Any gameplay? No gameplay? Cool. Don't care. Imagine you're the only one in the kitchen. For some reason you're forced to turn on more burners and for more dishes, and soon you go from managing like 14 different ovens trying to make sure No single thing burns. That sounds terrible. I hate that. That sounds awful. That's an RTS to me? Yeah. But again, I know people like that. I know people like that. Every genre has a fan. Every genre has its fans. And I will never, like... I'll never just say, like, X genre is bad. I'll just note that it has its fans. It's not for me. Don't Nod games. Come on. Where's my mouse? Most Don't Nod games? I have liked 2 Don't Nod games. Everyone has a stress they cope better with. The only 2 Don't Nod games I've liked are Remember Me and Vampire. All the other ones play like this. Don't like them. They play kind of like Telltale games, but with the most, like, stunted writing and the most, like, I don't know. I just can't connect with these like I can to Telltale games. Old Telltale games. And I'm not going to say every Telltale game is great, but Infinity Nikki. The cozy open-world adventure game fueled by the power of dressing up got a new look at Gamescom. I believe this was shown off at the Game Awards last year, late last year. Come on. Where's my mouse? There we go. Do we have any gameplay? Do we have any gameplay? So all we're told is that it's powered by dress up. Like, this looks so cute. I'm not gonna lie. This looks really cute. This looks really fun. I want gameplay. You can show me a beautiful cutscene all you want, and I'll say, cool. I want a movie that looks like that or something. I want gameplay. So, I'll keep an eye on it. I'm excited to see what it is, but Dune Awakening. Actual gameplay from its open-world survival MMO set in the Dune universe. I like Dune. I like Dune well enough. Do I want a Dune MMO? This is for somebody. Honestly, like, when you think about, like, when I think of Dune fans, like, original, like, the books, the Lynch movie from 1980, whenever, like, this is for somebody. Again, I'm not gonna yuck anybody's yum, but, like, this is not for me. This is, like, this looks... Hang on, this track has vocals. I'm just gonna turn it down a little bit, just so I can fucking focus, because I hate talking over other people speaking. Like, this gameplay looks fun and fine, but it also, like, vaguely reminds me of Destiny. And I liked Destiny 1. I couldn't get into Destiny 2. It's got some other things going for it. It's for somebody. It's for somebody. If you're excited for the Dune MMO, good for you. Good for you. Give me a magic FPS. Reanimal from the creators of Little Nightmares. I thought this was Little Nightmares 3, honestly. Like, arrows, spells, magic guns. Ooh. I mean, skulls that shoot flames out of their eyes. I mean, that's kind of what Tiny Tina's Wonderlands did, but not super creative. It was just like standard Borderlands guns, and then you also had spells. But no, like skulls that shoot flames, like just you're holding the skull. That'd be fun. Like, this looks like Little Nightmares. I genuinely thought this was Little Nightmares 3. I'm excited. You know? Little Nightmares has a really good atmosphere. Like, this company, Tarsier Studios, they have a very good knack for creating atmosphere. This looks good. I was so mad at Destiny giving us 3 different races and making every single aspect of them the same. The fact they have no unique animations is absurd. Correct. Oh my god. I used to play Destiny a lot with people. Like, Destiny is one of those, again, it was an online-only game that you played with people. Playing Destiny alone felt bad. Destiny 2 is the same way. It felt like Destiny 2 felt like starting Destiny 1 all over again with, like, nothing. And I just couldn't get, like, consistent people together to play with. So I was like, this doesn't feel good. But yeah, Reanimal looks really interesting. I want to scroll. There we go. Monster Hunter Wilds. More Monster Hunter for Monster Hunter fans. Look at the monsters. Look at the monsters in Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm really excited for Monster Hunter fans. I've played a bit of Monster Hunter Worlds, but again, oh my gosh. Monster Hunter Worlds is the only one I've played, and I get Giant Rose Spider. Dude, the designs are cool. Go back and appreciate that giant spider. I saw it. I've seen this trailer before. I watched Gamescom live. Where's the giant spider? It looks awesome. It looks awesome. It looked like, yes, I will admit, the designs are really cool. But, like, I want to play these games with people. You can play them alone. I would say this is one that is more so on the side of there could be a solo play. But I don't wanna. I want to team up and go kill big things. Yeah, like, I think Monster Hunter has always been on the better side of monster designs. Like, there are some that are just like, oh, that's just like a dinosaur. That's just a dinosaur. Which, you know, I've seen dinosaurs and other things. Yeah. Like, Monster Hunter is definitely a to be played with friends. But you could play by yourself. Civ 7. This is for Civ fans. It's Civilization. It's Civilization. I've never played a Civilization game, but there's Civ 7 for Civ fans. Marvel Rivals showed, they got a release date, finally. It's been in, like, early access or something, so we got a release date, and they're adding Captain America and Winter Soldier. I do hope they add more things to synergize multiplayer. Are we talking about Civ or Civ 7? I sure hope they don't make 30 more Civs that cost $5 each post-launch. Oof. Holding on. Marvel Rivals did a fucky thing. Alright, so we'll just put a pin in Marvel Rivals. Something about making streamers not say something. Oh boy. Was it feminist propaganda? Was it more feminist propaganda? Alright, so this. I am so excited for this. Coming to Amazon Prime. I think it was they couldn't critique the game. Ew. Yeah, if you want to find something on that and, like, send it to me in Discord, I can take a look. So, Secret Level is from from the creative minds behind Love, Death, and Robots. They also noted that they are the company that makes super, like, detailed game trailers. Like, when you think about, like, when you see the, like, super highly rendered game trailers, and you're like, man, I sure wish there was a movie that looked like that, or a show that looked like that. This is an anthology series from that company of, like, pre-existing games. From the worlds of Armored Core, Dungeons & Dragons, Mega Man, Pac-Man, Sifu, Spelunky, The Outer Worlds, Unreal Tournament, Warhammer 40k. I saw Kratos. Kratos is in a blink and you'll miss it moment in this trailer. I'm legitimately excited for this. I don't play all of these games, but I think this is a fascinating idea to gauge interest in a standalone show. Like, we're getting a God of War show also on Amazon at some point, and this is a really good way to gauge interest in that. How well does the God of War episode of this show do? Secret level. So excited. I think this is going to be really fascinating. Yeah, cool, whatever, Prime. Starfield DLC for whoever's still playing Starfield. Moving on. Monument Valley 3. I remember Monument Valley. I love how Jeff Keighley... so when Monument Valley 3 was shown off, he was like, hey, you remember Monument Valley? That game we were all playing a decade ago? And I was like, I don't think we were all playing it, but go on. He didn't even mention Monument Valley 2. He's like, Monument Valley... Because I didn't know there was a Monument Valley 2. But he was like, remember Monument Valley, that game we were all playing a decade ago? Monument Valley 3. Where's Monument Valley 2? Apparently it already came out. But yeah, this is published by Netflix Games. It's coming to Netflix. But then Monument Valley 1 and 2 are also coming to Netflix at different times. Yeah, hang on. We're getting Monument Valley 1 and 2 on Netflix Games at 2 different points, which is really odd to me. Maybe to incentivize people playing them instead of just like picking one to actually play them in order. Batman Arkham Shadow. I have a problem with them. So it's a Batman VR game, which... It's a tweet from a streamer. Let's read this tweet. That's fair. Can't help but laugh. Multiple creators asked for key codes to gain access to the playtest. This is for Marvel Rivals. We're asked to sign a contract. The contract signs away your right to negatively review the game. Many streamers have signed without reading, just to play. Non-disparagement. The content creator agrees to not make any public statements or engage in discussions that are detrimental to the reputation of the game. This includes, but is not limited to, making disparaging or satirical comments about any game-related material, such as game features, characters, or music, engaging in malicious comparisons with competitors, or belittling the gameplay, or belittling the period gameplay, or differences of Marvel Rivals, or providing subjective negative reviews of the game. So you can't even compare it to Overwatch. That's bullshit, Marvel. That's awful. I hate that. Disgusting. Alright. Anything that could be detrimental that includes but is not limited to. Yeah, no, that's awful. That's disgusting. What's the point of giving out review codes if you're only going to have biased reviews? Fuck that. But yeah, I think Arkham Shadow is an interesting idea, you know, of fully VR Batman game. I don't know how I feel about them continuing the Arkham stuff now that Kevin Conroy's passed away. Like, we'll see. We'll see. Again, like, since this is a VR exclusive, I'm probably never going to play it. But this is for somebody. There was a... Oh my god, I legitimately, like... I consume a lot of animated media. Like, animation is a medium, it's not a genre. So I consume a lot of animated media. The synergy comment from before was co-op was to co-op Monster Hunter. They started adding items and features to weapons specifically for co-op interaction, so I hope they keep it up. That's cool. To incentivize co-op, that's awesome. But yeah, like, Amazon just dropped the new Batman show called Batman the Caped Crusader. I can't remember, Hamish Linklater? Kevin and Mark were the ultimate duo. The fact that Mark chose to hang up the Joker character shows how much it meant to him. Oh, for sure. And like everybody, you see any interview talking about Kevin Conroy, he seemed like the nicest guy ever. Like, I see there are some, it's very easy to lose faith in humanity, for, all these bad things, big businesses and stuff. But you just see some interviews with people that, like, restores a little bit of that faith. Like, how much Kevin Conroy loved being Batman, how much that meant to him, and how humble he seemed about it, about being the Batman. Like, that, it means so much to have, like, such a grounded guy in such like a big position of being quintessential Batman for a lot of people. But I recently finished the Caped Crusader show, which was created by Bruce Timm, the creator of the Batman animated series from the 90s that Kevin started on. And it was produced by J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves being the director of The Batman starring Robert Pattinson. And it is like a darker take. It's set specifically in like the 40s. It's really good. Everything that they change, because Bruce Timm, the creator, made it a point of saying, this isn't a continuation of Batman the Animated Series. I'm not trying to compete with my own legacy. Everybody has an idea of what that show was. Everybody has nostalgia for that. I'm not trying to compete with that. This is just a new take that I have for the character in the world. And it's set in such this like stylish 1940s Gotham. Like, it's got such sauce to it. It's so good. I'm such a fan of it. And the designs are genuinely like really good, and they feel fresh. Bruce Timm please do the live action movies. I liked the Batman. I'm excited for the Batman Part 2. But yeah, like just as an example, Two-Face in the Batman Caped Crusader show, every time they do Two-Face, it's like this like artistic burn on half of his face where it's like a discoloration, like in the original animated show, it was kind of this grayish blue. In the live action one with Tommy Lee Jones, it was like a purple burn. They did a skull effect in The Dark Knight. But in the Caped Crusader, it's more of a melt effect. He has this sort of pocked effect with some deep shadows, like these deep, like, it's such harsh shading that looks so stylish and good on all these characters. It's not like, they don't do like a darker tone for a shadow. It's pure blacks for shadows, and it's so stylish. It looks so good. And like the intros and outros are in like this like flickery sepia tone.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's make some noise.
Arrow, thank you so much for the subscription with Prime Gaming. If you're subscribed to Amazon Prime, you probably have a Prime Gaming subscription. You don't know about blah, 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 everything that every other streamer tells you to do. But thank you so much, Arrow. I genuinely appreciate it. It's at no extra cost to you, and I get to take some of Amazon's money. But yeah, I would highly recommend checking out the Caped Crusader show. It's legitimately very good. But yeah, going back to Batman the Arkham Shadow, again, like everything else, I'll wait to see reviews. I'm probably never going to play it since it's a VR game, and I don't have a VR headset. And unless the PlayStation VR 2 goes on sale for only like $100 or something, consider forgot its existence. Great to steal Amazon's monies. Yeah. Masters of Albion. Hello, Peter Molyneux. Hello, Peter Molyneux. Hello. Okay, so for people who don't know, Peter Molyneux, this guy, creator of the Fable games for Xbox, Populous, Black and White, is a notorious fucking liar. Peter Molyneux is a fucking, like, he will promise so many things in his games that just don't pay off. Con Man of the Century? Like, for Fable 1, he was like, you'll be able to plant an acorn and watch it grow into a full... Like, you'll plant a seed and watch it grow into a full tree over the course of the game. I windowed out of an Elden Ring boss fight to join in on that? Fair. So, in his new God Sim, supposedly you'll be able to interact with everything. You'll get to create the food that your peasants eat. You'll be able to create the types of swords and shields that they fight with. I believe that. But I also believe that there'll be 3 things that you can make. You can make sandwiches, you could make stew, or you could make a roast to dinner. The cool thing about this game that, you know, we'll see about, so it's a God Sim of you get to, you know, make the buildings, you get to make you'll get to make the buildings, you'll get to help them in their resource management and stuff for your little village. But at night, monsters come out. So you have your little villagers able to defend their village. It's sort of a town builder / tower defense game. But according to Peter Molyneux, you can take control of any character at any time. You can just become any of your little villagers. So now you can run around, and I'm just going to restart this. We're at the very end of the Valhalla soundtrack, so I'm just going to back that up. 4K UHD Minecraft. Like, it feels like he's promising so much with this game. At least he's showing us. At least he's showing us gameplay footage of everything he's talking about. But I feel like he's hyping it up. Yeah, like, oh, look, you can put bread on a sword. It's not very effective. That's fun. That's fine. It's possible to make a game where it's possible to form your own sword. I think the difficulty would be storage. Once it's solved, it would be more doable. Yeah. But again, we don't know. It's interesting because we don't know how big the world could be. Like, what we just saw, that could be the entire world size. The world size could be the village and a little bit of forest around it. Maybe a mountain. And that's the whole world. That could be it. Which allows them, if the world is that small, that allows them to put as much customizable stuff in there as they want. Once again, I'll wait for reviews, but I have Peter has lied to me so much. I'm gonna keep expectations low for that one. Push alpha footage as a 100-year finished product. Oh, Squid Game the game. It's Squid Game the game from Netflix. It's Squid Game. If you've played Fall Guys, or, you know, every other one of those, they should make a show about this. You're right. They should make a show about this. Diablo 4 DLC. For anybody still playing Diablo 4. If you like Diablo 4, I'm happy for you. I like Diablo 3 just fine. That is not all of them, Polygon.com. Is that all of them? Is that all of them? 1 second. No, not Polygon. What am I doing? Gamescom Opening Night Live. Is that all of them? Reject cookies. Deny. About Jeff Keighley. I think that's all of them. That was only, what, a couple hours worth of announcements? Interesting. I could have sworn there was more. Huh. Alright, well, that's everything. Can't think of anything else that happened this month, but, yeah, I want to thank people for hanging out. It's always so hard to talk about these things, because it's like, people are trying to be excited for it. You know, the developers are trying to be excited for DLC for their game, but like Diablo 4 had some issues at launch that probably hurt their overall market. I digress. I want to thank people for hanging out. I genuinely appreciate you guys. I love doing these end of month streams, just kind of talking about what happened. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we can real quick. So for those who don't know, Concord is Sony's new hero shooter. It looks like it's trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy in terms of humor, and their big thing to get people to keep logging back in is apparently they're doing weekly or maybe monthly cutscenes. So every week or every month when you log in, you'll get a 1 minute long little cutscene. There's like no story, and all the cutscenes that I've seen make it act like you should already know all these fun, wacky characters. Like, you know, it has such like beaten to death, you know, smirk at the camera kind of like Marvel humor. But a character will be like, oh, that's so like you. And it's like, I don't know these characters. What the fuck do you mean that's so like you? You're just telling me how these characters are instead of showing me. I don't know any of these people. They went through a hissy fit on Twitter, resorted to hiding the replies to all of his comments, telling him to pay them $8 to unopened. Jesus. Every game like this, Sony apparently had like nearly or maybe upwards of like double digit worth of nonsense. This is your oldest best friend. Sony had like double digit live service games in development all at once, and I think this is one of them. And it's like, you can't do that, because every live service game is gonna try to be the only game you play. They're gonna reward you for playing every day and only playing their game every day. They're gonna reward you for that. Get the good brain juice in gamers. So, creating 10 of them, you're competing with yourself, Sony. Like, who remembers Foam Stars? Who remembers Sony's live service Splatoon rival Foam Stars? That's probably already dead. Who remembers that racing game that could have just been a Twisted Metal? That derby game, that destruction derby game that could have just been another Twisted Metal. I'm so fucking tired of these online games. Of course, Concord wasn't going to do great. It had like, what, 700 players on Steam at launch? That's sad. I could have told you that the game wouldn't have done well. And I've never worked in game development. Keep hearing this game has been in development for 8 years, costs only $100 million, hasn't even gotten Golem's player count. Oh my god, and Golem tanked a company. Here's the thing, and I feel bad, because I think Concord is this company's first game. Like, Sony started this company and then handed them a game. Sony started this company and said, you're making a live service game for us. They didn't ask for this. There's probably some passionate people involved in making this game, because the game looks good. It plays fine. It's a hero shooter. If you played one hero shooter, you've played them all. The only time I will say that one feels different is a game like Paladins, where it's more like a MOBA where you can build a loadout. You know, there's that comparison review between like Paladins and yeah, there's that comparison review between Paladins and Overwatch, where when you play Overwatch, a character has a playstyle. In Paladins, you can create a playstyle for a character. Two people can play the same character in Paladins with a different loadout and create like two unique feels. Like they incentivize or they prioritize two different types of gameplay for the same character. That is different. That is a different way to do a hero shooter. But all of them now are just like rivals. Concord. I'm so tired. I'm gonna get out of here. I want to thank people for hanging out. I love doing these end of month streams. Let's, me and my friends, played that recently, and Jesus, I'm actually so pissed that game got thrown in the closet as an Overwatch clone. It's so good. I hear great things about Paladins. I just don't do online games very much. If you're watching this on YouTube and you want to know when I go live, you can just follow me on Twitch. It's the easiest way to know when I go live. I stream gaming Monday through Thursday, and then the last Sunday of every month we do these end-of-month streams where we just talk about the gaming news and what's going on in the gaming sphere, as I call it. Not just, you know, game development, but also how games are reviewing, how games aren't being reviewed because of the contracts that early reviewers sign, looking at you, Marvel Rivals, Black Myth Wukong, all that fun stuff. But yeah, we'd love to have you. At 100 followers, I will be playing the ET video game. There's also a Discord server where all of these links go when I'm, you know, talking about articles and stuff. When I cite articles and cite sources, drop them over there. As well as polls whenever I finish a game. Poll goes up over there. Well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Those games get polls. Monday's whatever I want to play. Monday's for me. So yeah, the schedule for this week should be Ratchet and Clank. Actually, the poll should have ended for Tuesday's game. Let's take a look. The results were tied. Oh no. The results were tied. I've never seen a three-way tie before in one of these votes. I will play all three. Tell you what. Just going to say it right now. I will play all three of these games on Tuesday before the next poll. The three games that tied are Spyro Attack of the Rhinox, God of War 2, and Slay the Princess. All three of these were tied for first place. Sorry, .hackgu Volume 2, who got one vote. I'm just going to make a note that these are the games I'm going to be playing on Tuesday. Where are my sticky notes? There we go. Alright, but I digress. I'm gonna get out of here, so join the Discord if you want to vote. Your vote matters. If you want to say what I play, there's also a tab for gaming recommendations, the resources from these just talking, you know, gaming news streams. There's also just general shit posting, art, animals. People post pictures of their pets. Animals are good. There's also announcements whenever I need to change my streaming schedule. If there's ever an issue with a stream and I can't make it, or I have to push it back, I have to move it up. Like I do these streams at like noon-ish, but some stuff came up later today, so I had to do this earlier today. I started about 10:30 a.m. my time. But I did post in the Discord, hey, the stream will be starting in about half an hour. I let people know beforehand. But any kind of announcements like that will be over in the Discord. So join up. We'd love to have you. It's free. You know, it's just a free hangout spot. But I digress. I'm going to get out of here. So, yeah. As always, be good, be kind, treat people the way that you would want to be treated. And I mean that genuinely. Like, it's so easy for people to just, like, be mean. I don't get it. It just seems like being mean is like the easier option for a lot of people. Just like the gut reaction is to just disagree. You know, if you don't agree with somebody right away, it's like, well, you're clearly wrong, so I'm going to be mad at you. Which, you know, can be funny if you're doing that with your friends. To immediately be like, no, fuck you. Like, that could be fun. But like, nah, like, it's not that hard to be a good person. It's free. Kindness is free. So yeah, be good and be kind. Treat people the way that you would want to be treated. And I'll catch you in the next one.